Okay, I think it's on.
Yeah, it's on.
Right. So now we're ready to go. So welcome everybody to the first round of the first virtual EcoCampus challenge, where different teams from different universities will be ready to give it all in order to win the challenge. All right. So we say that behind every great project is a small idea. So it's amazing that these wonderful people we have here today are willing to share their heightened environmental projects with us today. So today we have the SELVA team. Yay! Against the Centrale Nantes team. Is everybody ready for today's challenge?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Hey! So Nadia's gonna take it from here, and then Mr. Spencer or Miley is gonna carry it.
I just wanted to greet everyone, to thank everyone, especially our team, SELVA team. We're really, really proud of you. So I would like to present the three main persons who will present. So it's Antoine, Mikrez, Caitlin, and the other guys who took participation, it's another Antoine, Salome, Lucy, Arthur, Anaïs. Didn't I forget anyone? No, I don't think so.
So these are the champions from SELVA team.
Yes, thank you very much, and we're gonna do that.
You can do it, guys.
So it's your turn now, Nantes. Come on.
Spencer, we can't hear you.
We don't hear you.
Spencer.
So that you couldn't hear me eating.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Afternoon, everybody. Good to see you. Good to see you so happy and smiley. That's good. That's a tonic. Yeah, great. We're obviously happy to participate in the competition. In fact, we've got two teams now in the competition. A first-year masters group are participating. They're competing against Ireland this evening, and obviously the second-year masters students today who are competing against SELVA at Rennes University. I would certainly like to thank Christine Evin, who obviously organised all of this. As you said, this is the first year that it's run, and I suppose, there's bound to be a few teething problems the first year that we do it, but I think it's a marvellous idea. I think it's a great idea, and it's a nice way to bring students together from other universities and from different backgrounds, from different educational backgrounds. In terms of Centrale, as you may or may not know, Centrale is an engineering school. And what are engineers worried about a lot at the moment? What are they trying to engineer solutions for? It obviously is climate change. So perhaps we have a slightly unfair advantage in that respect, in that the students are very familiar with these topics and with engineering solutions to some of the challenges that we face in the future, and not least climate change and global warming. So it's quite short notice, actually. I haven't actually seen them as a group. I emailed them, but I haven't seen them as a group since I told them they would be participating in the competition. But I'm imagining that only a few of the students are actually going to present the slides today. So although there's about 12 students logged on, I think it's going to be Corentin who's going to introduce it, and then I think several other students will then speak, but not everybody. And I think they're ready to go. Yeah, sorry, I've spoken too much. I'm being long-winded. But yeah, good to see you. Looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yes, just concerning the questions, if you all agree, of course, like each team, it has 20 minutes to go, and then 5 to 10 minutes question time. So they are given the chance to ask their questions to the opposing team.
Okay, great,
Yeah,
great.
fair enough. So yes. Yes, we start?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
Okay, SELVA team, are you ready?
Yeah.
We are.
Right. Great. Come on.
Mhm. Yeah. So we'd like to start by saying thank you for having us here and welcome each other to the Eco Campus Challenge. First, before we begin, I'd like to say, let's just have a little exercise. Imagine yourself in high school. You're 17, 18, ready to take over the world, go to college, and depending on who you were, either stressing over your exams and writing and ripping apart countless college essays, or perhaps slacking off and enjoying time with your best buddies, going to parties, and taking in the beauty of your last high school years. You don't know much about life, what it has in store for you, but you know one thing, and that's that you want to go to a perfect campus.
You want to go to a college with good classes and a great campus, but also where you want to feel like you're concerned about environmental issues are being taken seriously. You want to fight for your causes and feel good in a place where they care about our planet's future. So you want to choose where you're going to study depending on how the campus deals with waste, energy, biodiversity, and people.
So our university decided to make changes on campus by taking advantage of the 3 billion euros program that the government launched to retrofit public buildings. Our university also wants to set up a strategy of incorporation of sustainable development on campus. It's based on 17 of the Sustainable Development Goals. So we actually do tours to present our eco-campus to the future students that will come to study here next year. So we're going to take you on a tour of our eco-campus. So to start with, when students arrive on campus, most of them use a car. Advances in technology have allowed people to travel faster. The car is the symbol of progress. But now we have to engage a new way of moving around in order to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. This new way is called soft mobility. It includes all different ways of getting around under our own steam, like bike riding, walking, roller skating, etc. So it takes into account all environmental friendly modes of transportation. So our eco-campus promotes soft mobility and especially bike riding. That is what we decided to focus on. So basically, we want to implement like a cultural change to make bike riding cool. So people think that like bike riding can be dangerous or it's hard to fix your bike or it can be like a problem to have a bike. So we want to change this by promoting bike riding as a positive way of moving around through like conferences or events. We also want to implement like a financial support for people, like so they can be able to buy accessories for their bikes or to even buy a bike. So we'll organize like an association about cycling. So it could like, we could organize workshops to dedicated to learn how to fix your bike. So it would nice to like create a community around bike riding. But on another hand, we can't focus only on bike riding because some people can't ride bikes and a resilient campus can't be designed for only one type of transport. So we also want to focus on buses and especially electric buses because they're a good way of moving around because they're poor in terms of gas emissions. And we also want to promote walking because it's the most intuitive way of moving around. Now, Antoine is going to present you our new building program.
Building are places we're spending most of our time. We like to feel comfortable in it. However, they consume a lot of resources. They also use a lot of energy, including embodied energy, which represents a huge amount of the building final energy. That's why an extensive pre-building impact assessment is determinant. Environment, energetical performances, uses, and user have to be taken into consideration. Then you need to use efficient materials, performing but sustainable ones. That's why we want to use biosourced materials. They are very efficient and can be locally produced. We'll use a hemp linen cotton insulation mix to renovate the buildings, but wood wool will also be a very performant material. New buildings will be made with the wooden skeleton and soil straw walls. To go further, we've thought that passive building would be a key to reduce our ecological footprint. They'll be oriented to maximize solar heat and covered by vegetable gardens and solar panel patchworks. Oasis is a domotic program designed to manage building performances. It is analyzing the needs depending on how many people are in the room. Buildings should also get some equipment to enhance their potential, depending on what's needed. It can be dual flow ventilation or solar ovens. We are also thinking about a multi-use of the buildings, but buildings can't be intended without energy. First of all, we need energetical sobriety. Implementing the Negawatt Association principles, sobriety, efficiency, and then renewable. The structure of the buildings is essential. The objective is to create an efficient building, taking advantage of the orientation. The materials used in the construction will also help using less energy. The biosourced mix has a great dephasing that provides not too cold winters and not too hot summers. Heating will be supplied by a mix of energies. Quarnot company has developed a new heating technology with electronic devices heat. The goal is to use computer of the campus to heat the buildings. Solar panels, wool chip borders, and a dual flow ventilation will complete the mix. About lighting, the idea is to use glowing bacteria to light the campus, which is already tested in Rubex. The living bacteria will stay for a while in the bulb, eating sugar inside. LEDs will also be added to complete the lighting. Using as less energy and resources won't stop waste to be produced, but we've got some ideas about it.
Another important thing to take into consideration into the eco-campus would be waste management. As we all know, the world has a hard time efficiently dealing with waste products. And we're not trying to save the world or anything, but for our campus, we're going to have to put in place rigorous measures to deal with this problem efficiently. And the three keys would be waste reduction, reuse waste, and to recycle as well. First, we have to reduce. So by reducing, we mean reduce our consumptions, first of all. So no plastic as much as possible, and replacing plastic products with better materials such as tin or carton, biodegradable things. Another key to deal with waste is to reuse. Instead of throwing away things that we don't need anymore, we've decided to put a secondhand corner where college students could give away things that they don't need anymore, but that could be useful to other college students. That way, less material is put to waste. A third key is to recycle. And in order to do that, we would put available different trash cans so you can sort out the garbage and sort it into paper, glass, or plastic in order to make recycling an easier process. We'll now move on to the management of green spaces with Caitlin.
So our campus has a lot of green spaces, as you can see on the photo, and we want to use some of these green spaces to have classes outside. So these areas of education will have like wooden tables and benches, and these areas will also have the lawn mowed like once or twice a month to improve the offer of green spaces. Otherwise, we want to have a cohabitation of horticultural and spontaneous vegetation. In order to favor biodiversity, we're going to set up biological corridors like hedges or like herbaceous edges on pond banks, so it can increase biodiversity. So these areas will have the lawn mowed like only once or twice a year. So in order to leave shelters for animals such as rodents, insects, birds, etc. We also have more rustic natural, we want to have more rustic natural green spaces with like moderate maintenance to increase fauna and flora biodiversity. And we want to implement small agricultural plots with vegetable cultivation and vegetable gardens under greenhouses in order to grow food for the university's restaurant, for example. And we'll also have a storage and composite unit on campus to avoid transport impacts of the vegetable waste. Now we're going to move on to our mini farm project with the animals. So the creation of a mini farm will help create a link between students and animals to bring them closer to nature. We had the idea to put beehives on campus because bees favor plant pollination and well, especially those from vegetable gardens, and we would collect the honey that could be sold to students at a reduced price. So we also wanted to have sheep and goats on campus to avoid the use of pesticides or engines so they could like mow the lawn. We also want to install chicken coops. So chicken farming is an excellent way of reducing organic and food waste. According to studies, 2 hens can absorb about 150 kilos of food waste per year. So it would reduce their food waste. And talking about food, Mekraz is going to present you our food program.
Apologies. Yeah, I was saying what's better than having a healthy ecosystem in our campus is to have healthy students, and health comes a lot with food. So we're thinking of having sustainable food in our campus and also to deal with food wastage. Sustainable food should be provided by local farmers. Local organic food is supposed to be in our disposition. And in the cafeterias, we were thinking of having vegan and vegetarian menus as well, alternatives in all campus cafeterias. We're also thinking of having a specific day, a Green Monday, for trying out solely vegetable-based food as well, coming from the university little, how do you call it? Garden where you can grow our own food with the compost. Another great idea is to give students recipes and tips on how to cook in a healthy manner with healthy products, and be transparent as well with how the food is made and where it's coming from. We'll focus mostly on whole, minimally processed foods because it's essential to stay healthy. Another thing we have to deal with is food wastage, which is a great problem in campuses. For instance, we could allow students to decide on the portion of food they're going to have in cafeterias. That way we don't give too much food or too little food to people, so adapt it to the individual. We could also remove or reduce the amount of plates used. We're thinking of replacing normal round dishes with trays with different compartments on it, because washing more dishes requires more water, which is more waste. Another thing we have to do is coffee machines, because students consume a lot of coffee with all the exams and projects we have to do. We need to stay awake. So coffee vending machines are very, very frequently visited. And in order to protect the environment, we're thinking of having reusable cups. So none of those plastic cups that you use and throw away all the time. It's ecological, but also an economically sane choice, because you don't have to buy plastic cups to replace the other ones. And the cups should preferably be made of bamboo fiber, for example. And we're also thinking of having solar energy-based vending machines to reduce the amount of electricity consumed. moving on, we'll have water.
Yeah, everyone knows how water is essential. Everyone is trying to use as less water as possible, and everyone knows that we have to turn off the tap when you're not using it. But it's not enough. In the meantime, we need to set up some hydro-efficient systems. For example, overflow aerators attached to the tap or reduce the toilet flushes. Talking about toilets, we could also set up some ecological toilets for those who would have some urgent craving. Then we will start to implement a differentiated management of the rainwaters. Rainwater is also a resource and not a constraint. So this consists on conventional pipe systems, draining rainwater to storage tanks, and then reducing the impervious areas, enhancing soil draining capacity, using landscape ditches, and convey rainwaters to supply the local green spaces. The overflow will just be conveyed to ponds and enhance biodiversity, for example. The water collected will be reused in the toilets, in the dishwashers, and it could be interesting to work on the quality of the water. For example, set up a purifying lab with the students. To work on polluted waters will be very interesting even for students. And phytopurification will be the key to purify wastewaters, which is bound to provide new habitats and enhance biodiversity. So let's move to green involving.
Green involving pursues two goals. The main goal is to create a community around keeping the campus ecologically sustainable, and also creating community where you can engage in a lifestyle that protects the environment, not just on campus, but outside. In order to do that, we're thinking of having a green festival, an annual festival full of many events, and an association that takes care of all these matters. Speaking of the festival, it would be made to promote ecology and provide money for the association, funding for the association. It'll be made of student groups, and there'll be talent shows or shows from our students who would like to showcase their musical abilities or other artistic abilities. There'll be giant garage sale where students could sell their old things that could be useful. Reusable cups are a must in this festival, as festivals usually tend to produce waste. We're really going to be careful about that and have reusable cups and reduce waste, etc. There will be many activities like planting trees or learning how to sew old clothes and reuse them, or biking and creating enough electrical energy to make a smoothie or things like that. Interactive ashtrays with surveys are also pretty interesting, and dustbins measuring the weight of all the trash you consume, so you can, be encouraged to reduce some of them, etc. A green association is also key in turning this campus into an effective and interactive one. The association will organize the Green Festival, but they would also teach students about ecology, maybe a course an hour long each year, or for new coming students. And they'll manage gardens and animals as well, and do little actions along the year, promoting not only environmental safekeeping, but also gender equality and other social equalities, because in the end, our campus shouldn't just be about the environment. It's linked. The environment is linked to everything. It's not, we're part of it as well. So helping the environment will also be meaning helping humans and helping ourselves. The campus is not only focused on itself, but also on its students. And that's why our eco-campus would be the perfect college. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much.
You are the best, guys.
Yes.
Always.
Very proud of you guys. You pulled it through. So now maybe Spencer is willing to say something about the whole thing, or we allow the room to for further questions maybe.
Well, yeah, I'll certainly make a comment. Yeah, I thought it was very, very good, very wonderful presentation, very comprehensive, and they've clearly thought about all of the major factors in terms of promoting and developing a green campus. So some really wonderful ideas. As we know, some of these ideas are quite current, that people are talking about them now, but there were some other ideas there, that I thought were either new or were developing things that are already being discussed. So no, I was really struck by how much detail and how many ideas there were. Certainly just on the English language aspect, everybody spoke very, very well. I think I picked up one native speaker there with an Australian accent, but I'm imagining the others are not native English speakers, and if that is the case, then their English was excellent. They really spoke very, very well. So a very professional presentation. Yeah, well done. I shouldn't be saying this, but yeah,
You love it.
No, very good, very good. Congratulations. Very, very well done. Very well done.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, maybe
Does anybody have?
yes, maybe the team are willing to ask some questions for the.
If you have any questions, I don't think so, but maybe you have a question.
I guess my first question is this competition biased? Because I feel like it's going one way. Everybody's already for one team. That's not even fair.
No, it's not biased, believe me.
No, I'm kidding. No, the presentation was really good. I was just wondering what was the goal. All the ideas were really good and everything, but what was the goal behind it? Like, are those some changes that could be made for your university? Is that what it is about? And if it's that, how much do you think that will cost to have to do such like changes, and like do you think is actually doable in real life?
Guys?
That's a great question. I think our goal is to, first of all, put a few ideas into context, because having a goal to, protect the environment and everything is great, but knowing how to do it and which aspects are important are, very useful. So our goal was to put in place as many things as possible that could make a good campus possible. And as for the funding and for the ways this project is realizable or not, I think they are because creating associations and a body that can fundraise and bring other people together, etc., is going to make things possible on a small scale. And then we can also rely on donors or government fundings, which might be favorable to these kinds of changes, because on the long term they are pretty essential.
Yeah, and most of the solution are nature-based solutions, so they are quite easy to set up. Also, I think the most expensive ones are on the construction and on the energy. And at the moment, the state is just making a financial plan of $3 billion for the 3 billion euros, of course, for the state construction, to renovate the construction. So I think it's definitely realizable.
Nice. Thank you guys for the answers.
And all our projects are realizable on campus. Like our campus is really, really big. We've got lots of green spaces. So all the ideas we've talked about can be made on campus. Like we've got the space and like ecosystem and biodiversity.
I see.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a question also.
Yes.
Go ahead, Kemi. Yeah.
Okay, it's about the glowing bacteria. So I've seen about it a few years ago, but I was wondering if you guys know if it's actually used today, because I've lost track of it.
Yeah, it is actually. I think one city in France named Roubaix is already testing this type of lighting.
And do you know about the results? Are they good?
Yeah, they're pretty good actually.
Okay, good. Okay,
Okay,
thank
so
you.
I had another question about like glowy, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Valentin.
I
Yeah.
was just having a question like glowy. What do you think about it, ethically speaking?
Sorry,
You're
could
a bit you're a bit broken, Valentin. Can you repeat?
Oh, okay, yes. So I might change my connection side. So can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So I was just asking, what do you think about glowy, ethically speaking? Because they are like making biological manipulations on genes, and I was wondering if you had any bad aspects to point out on it.
you mean like modifying the genotype of the bacteria?
Yeah, because we are all saying, yeah, cloning is bad, but glow is based actually on gene manipulation and on cloning. So I was wondering if, because this may be a problem for most people out here, so I'm not sure that including this to an eco-campus is based on humanities. And so I think like this is quite inaccurate to use something that is using gene manipulation. Don't you think so?
I think it's a good question, and I think this is something that we should discuss with everyone in the campus. But also, it is contained to the bulb of the ampoule, so I'm not sure that it would impact somehow biodiversity. I don't know. I'm not sure about it.
And I was wondering too, because so maybe in Roubaix they're implanting this, but is it for daylight or is it just for night? Because this is quite weak. I mean, this is like about 10 lumen, I guess, just a lamp, and 10 lumens is just like something like a candle. So is it usable in a campus, like when we need good lighting?
I think this is one of the options for lightning. That's why I said that LEDs would complete the lightning, because of course you can't light the whole campus with glowy.
Yeah, okay. And so, so Antoine, you talk about like using wood for buildings. So do you think that this is going to have a good durability, buildings made with a wooden skeleton?
There is, I think, the most ancient wooden skeleton in Sulphur House is has been made, I think, around that was on I think it was 1880. So yeah, I think there is really good durability. But I think you can make some research and find it out. It's in France, so and you can still go there to visit it.
Yeah, okay, because I was just wondering about like the shrinkage and the swelling of the wood. There's been many problems with like developing countries with wooden skeleton buildings just like collapsing. And these were in like hot and warm countries, meaning that they don't have that problem with the biotic. If like, for example, in France, or wouldn't you have like a moisture problem with a wooden skeleton? Wouldn't it be more adapted for like a southern building?
I didn't have the whole question, but I think you were asking about is it really is the whole building will just stay for long term and is not affected by moisture and all these kind of problems. But from what I know, I don't think there is much problems than that, because
Okay,
I've
yeah,
done
so
some
sorry, so I
researches
can't hear
about
you.
it, and a lot. Well, it depends on if it's only like a building with wooden skeleton, or I think the very important thing is what you're putting inside. Like if you just have a wooden structure, then it could be weak. But I think wooden structure with soil straw mixture and some nice materials inside, like biosourced materials, is a really reliable structure and construction. And I don't think that you will have much problems with this.
Okay, thank you. I missed what you said because my connection is actually really bad, but I mean, thank you for your answers.
There's a question in the chat box from Nuhelia. She says, thank you for the presentation. It was really good. Congratulations. But I have a little question concerning the waste management part. And yeah, the English isn't perfect, but I think it's, do you already have a waste management strategy at school in Rennes, at Rennes1? So I think you propose like normal and simple ones. Yeah. I don't know, Nuhelia, if you can perhaps re-articulate your question. Nuhelia, are you able to use the audio? Because Nuhelia then goes on to say reduce, reuse. So do you have already those strategies? So what's the new stuff here? What are the additional strategies? Yeah, no, Nuhelia is saying that she can't speak because of connection problems. So yeah, I think just to reformulate her question, she's asking if in effect these strategies are already in place at the University of Rennes, and are there additional strategies that are being proposed or that you're proposing? Are there new strategies here, or are they already in action? This is concerning waste management. What you in relation to waste management, are these things that you're already doing at the University of Rennes?
Well, no, our waste management on campus is not that good. There's not a lot of bins anywhere, and then there's no like different bins for different waste. Not really. It's starting, but it's not really implemented yet. That's why we've talked about this, because it's not good. It's not good yet, but it's starting. But it's a bit on our campus. It's going slowly, but we haven't got that much bins yet or anything about waste or stuff. So that's why.
Yeah, yeah. So these are strategies, these are ideas to evolve and develop what's happening at Rennes University. Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Maybe I have a final question. Do you think that like all your changes, for example, it should come from the students? Like, for example, when you talk about farm animals and things like that in the campus, who is going to take care of all of that? Like, do you think these projects should be incorporated with the education, like with the classes, with the projects, so that students can take care of it? Because otherwise, like who is going to be taking care of all of that?
Well, these are ideas. Like if because we're going to create like an association about like the eco campus and ecology. If no one wants to have that mini farm and animals, we're obviously not going to implement it, because it needs to be taken care of. And it's all about what if students want to be involved or not. And I think most students will think it's a good idea and would like to look after that mini farm and animals, and because most students are concerned about ecology and waste management, especially for the hen house. For the management of food waste, it's a really good option. So I think most students would think it's a good idea, and if no students want or agree with that idea, we're not going to implement it because it needs to be taken care of.
On the long term, I think it creates more advantages than harm, because all the investments you have to make on the machines and waste management, etc. Everything goes in circles basically. When the students eat food, there's food wasted. You need to put that somewhere, put it on a compost, to work on the compost, work on it, and then there's plants who grow. There's to get other sources of food as well. There's going to be animals with eggs, for example, and things like that make it circular. So in the long term, I think it would be a useful alternative. And there are also, some companies that already do things like that, and it's not completely new or out of the blue. So I think it might be possible if, as Caitlin said, other people agree.
And anyway, I think if we really want to change things, that we need to take part of the changes. If no one is doing anything, then nothing will change.
Yeah, for sure. I still think it's easier to implement in like environmental school, or like for schools where you have like environmental engineering, things like that. But I'm thinking of schools like law schools or medicine schools. I'm thinking of those schools and think it might be much harder to implement.
Yeah, because
it might be tricky.
Because our campus, where we've got like physics, the faculty like maths and science, we've got lots of green spaces, so if we can actually do that mini farm project and vegetable gardens and stuff. Our law campus in Rennes hasn't got any of that. Like, it's just like 2 or 3 buildings and a park lot, and that's it. So obviously they can't have the same ideas. It depends on your campus. Like, they're not going to have the same ideas about ecology and eco-campus than we do.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But I guess another important part of it is to communicate. When you create associations and green festivals and things like that, they do create an appeal. They create some sort of dynamic that attracts people. When you go to a really nice concert and it's funded and there's a garage sale with lots of, vintage stuff or whatever, it gets a certain appeal. So the louder you get on indirectly speaking, people might subconsciously get more attracted to it. So we hope that events like that could also raise awareness and let other campuses see that it's a pretty good opportunity to seize.
Your impression at a very large campus like the University of Rennes, which obviously offers a large range of different subjects that you can study. Your impression is that most students at Rennes University talk about the environment and are worried about the environment? Would you say it's the majority? Is it a topic of conversation that amongst students at Rennes?
Well, because we're studying environment, we do have those subjects of conversation, but I'm pretty sure most students are aware and want to see changes. I don't know if like every student would get involved in those changes, but most of them want to see changes on the campus and in the city, in Rennes.
Yeah,
I think one of the last poll about climate change and student is around 60 or 70% of the people that want to make changes. So yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Oh, that's good to know. That's good to know. Yeah.
I think that environment and eco-friendly environment is a global matter that everybody should be aware of. It does not really depend on one specific field or a specialty. Like, it's a matter of every person and every faculty, no matter what field, in which field they are in. So it's something that everybody should think about, should be aware of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and Caitlin, you're from Australia, right?
Yeah. Oh, well, no, my father's Australian, but I'm actually from Brittany. I mean, I was born here and I've only lived here.
Okay, I see. Because I was curious, like would those changes be welcome in other countries, like for instance, like Australia, or is it something that is very European so far? I mean, to implement these kind of changes in campuses.
Well, I don't know much about what like the young people think in Australia, because my family from over there is doesn't really care about ecology, and most of them are even like climate skeptical. Like they don't believe in climate change. So conversations are a bit hard on that subject, but I believe there's a movement over there in most cities with students that are aware of ecology, and because it's global. Like I don't think it's only Europe. I think it's really global in all countries, even Australia, in the United States of America, and I don't think it's only European, but I don't really know.
Yeah, I think 2 years ago, the Australian election were really tight. The ecological party was not about to win, but it was really close. And, you know, I think every country wants to make changes, and we have to remember that permaculture, for example, is coming from Australia. Bill Mollison was coming from Tasmania. So yeah, I think it's possible in every country.
Yeah, well, I noticed that one of Joe Biden's appointments to his new administration that he's forming, John Kerry, who's going to be the sort of special envoy for the environment. And I think in his opening statement, he said something like climate change is the biggest threat to humanity in terms of mass destruction. He actually used that phrase, mass destruction, which is normally used in the context of nuclear war or biological or chemical warfare, that people talk about weapons of mass destruction. But yeah, I think if you hear an American Secretary of State using language like that, mass destruction, then yeah, it would suggest that even in the Anglo-Saxon world, the people are moving in that direction. Yeah, that's true.
And the whole challenge is that even though part of the world can decide to go more eco-friendly, etc., there's developing countries who also, while being a little closer to the environment, because local farmers rely more on natural things, etc., I don't know, it creates some sort of, there's the whole issue of developing while still being eco-friendly, and those things should also be addressed because they're very important. But well, yeah.
Well,
I would think, sorry.
Yes, I think that the questions time is over. We went beyond time.
Thank you.
We would like to hear the second team, but before this, I tend to thank our team for their amazing presentation. You're such a great example to follow. Caitlin, even if you said like your family in Australia, they're not really that eco-friendly, but I think that you're a great example to follow, and we're so glad to have you here today presenting some eco-friendly projects and ideas, and I'm proud of you all. Thank you very much. Now it's time for the Spence's team to present their project, and we're expecting some questions from you. also today.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, are you ready?
Okay. So thank you very much. All very fascinating. Yeah, very stimulating that debate afterwards as well. Okay, well, as I understand it, Corentin will be starting off the presentation, and then how many of you are going to speak, Corentin? Do you know? I imagine you know.
Yeah, I think we're gonna do exactly like last week actually, because
Right.
since we had a short notice, we didn't have time to come together and do it differently. So I think everybody's gonna present their part just the way we did last week.
Yeah. Actually, without wishing to what's the word? What's the expression? To make excuses. Yeah. Not wishing to make excuses, but obviously this team did not know that they would be participating in this competition until I think it was on Tuesday that I sent them an email to say that in fact there was an opening for a second Centrale team to participate. So yeah, they in that sense they haven't had time to come together to work on their presentation further. So yeah, that's me making excuses. But there you go. But I'm sure it's going to be very good. I don't have any doubt whatsoever. Okay.
Excuses for them.
Oh, we don't make excuses, but definitely take
No,
it
they
into
don't make excuses. It's me
consideration.
making excuses. Yeah. It's me embarrassing them. It's me. Yeah, don't blame them. Yeah. Okay. Well, when you're ready, Corentin. Yeah. If you want to lead the way, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll share my screen. Can you see the presentation?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to present our eco-campus now, and I like to start with this very positive quote from Neil Fitzgerald that say, "Sustainability is here to stay, or we may not be." So it shows the urgency of the situation. So let's go with the outline. So we divided our presentation into 4 parts. The first one is about reducing our consumption. Second part is about consuming better, consuming ethically. And the third is about recycling our waste. And finally, we're going to do a quick cost analysis to see if it's viable. So part 1 is about reducing our consumption, and I'm letting my colleague start.
So thank you, Valentin. So there may be a lot of challenges, but one of which I'm going to focus on is the energy consumption. So as you can see on the title, we are going to use AI to consume smarter. But beforehand, I would like to point out some classical and current ideas that have been used in many campuses, such as the electric presence detectors that we all know, the off-grid power, using the human power, like walking or cycling, the light replacement with LEDs or glowy alternative too, in addition to solar zones. So the automatic activation, such as the electric presence detectors, the XO installation of buildings, and so yeah, controlling the students' consumption by evaluating their own consumption using the system of student reading. You can go next. So what's going to be useful with AI? So as you can see on your left, there is like a solution illustrated by FORDEG. Because on each campus, various efforts are being made to reduce the consumption of electricity and heating, particularly at the École Centrale, where the majority of the buildings are quite dilapidated, poorly insulated, and with a large glass surface compared to the average for other schools. So as a result, the classrooms are heated more than necessary to compensate for the convective heat exchanges produced by thermal bridges. So a first step would therefore be to improve the school's insulation. Of course, in your campus, you need to have a good insulation. But in addition, we could use AI, so AI is artificial intelligence, to help us manage this heating. So indeed, as proposed by FORDEG, by connecting the heating network to the timetable, the weather service, and the preferences of the users, we can obtain a much more efficient model than the previous one. So this significant step forward is already a solution. Even this is not possible to, we want to see if it is possible to get even closer to optimality. So you have a little building on your right. So let's imagine that a class is taking place in room A. So this room is heated accordingly. So at break time, and if no one has class in room A afterwards, but in room B, which is below room A then, the voluntary creation of a thermal bridge could moreover bring the heating power from room A to room B. Voluntary thermal bridge could take the form of a trapdoor, depending on the architecture of the building in question. Another way of doing this would be to create gutters, transferring a hard liquid from one room to another one. But this solution requires resistant buildings and not wooden skeleton, and involves risk in relation to electronic equipment. So we could use, by example, these computers, or all the computers that can be, by example, in École Centrale, to heat the rooms, but we need to cool them down. So next slide, please. So the artificial intelligence is extremely powerful, but we need to feed our AI using data sets. And this is the trickiest part of the fact that we don't necessarily have access to training data on heating on a campus. However, what we can offer with statistical tools is what we call estimation. So estimation, how to explain? So estimation is based on inverse problems, and inverse problems can be explained by means of Christmas presents. A direct problem is, in order to find out what's in the box, you can unwrap the gifts. The reverse problem would be to check the box, feel it, inspect it from all angles to guess what is inside. And so this is a technique that we're going to use to feed our AI that will then be the better eco-campus friend, the best friend. So we can estimate, by example, the calorific value over the duration of the group of students, and therefore proportional heating and air conditioning. We could also estimate the movements within the campus, like the estimation of light intensity using the weather forecast, and therefore a proportional lighting. And when we have all this data, we can feed the global AI. Next slide, please. So the estimation is extremely costful, because the implementation is going to be requiring a lot of computers, to say it simply, because, by example, even a simple algorithm like naive Bayes model are consuming a lot. And I imagine you're wondering how many zeros will have to be lined up to process such servers. So we'll give you the exact figures at the end of the presentation in our cost analysis section. What I can tell you is that science has already answered this question. So these servers could be used as heaters, but we need to cool them down at the moment. So we are not going to like using enormous fans just to cool them down. We are going to immerse them in a tank filled with a dielectric fluid, which will partially evaporate due to the heat produced by the servers, and then condense in a cool metal bar above the tank, and then fall back into this tank. And so this is a quite recent paper that I put right there. So the modeling of the cooling of heating elements by free convection boiling in a dielectric fluid. And so this will put the cost of like heating all the servers that are necessary for every campuses, even for low or medicine campuses, to zero, actually. So we are going to talk more about it in the cost analysis. And I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Valentin. Now I will talk about transportation around and inside the campus. So the idea is to build the school very next to some tram station and bus stations in a student residential quarter to avoid travels, and especially car travels. We could imagine some discount for students using only public transport, like, for example, a partnership between the faculty and the public transport company. We will not allow fuel cars inside the campus, so it should encourage people to come with public transport, for example. And there is a lot of other methods to promote sustainable travels, like the bike, electric vehicle, some paths inside the campus for the electric vehicle, and some charging point for this promotion of electric vehicle.
Now I'm going to talk a little bit about rainwater harvesting, because it's a free resource literally falling from the sky, and I think it's a bit criminal not to be using this resource. So according to the US Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, 50 to 70% of the total household water is used for landscape irrigation. So obviously it's a little bit different for the campuses, but it just shows that a lot of tap water is used and drinkable water is used for outdoor purposes when rainwater can do it perfectly. So the first great aspect about rainwater harvesting is that you can harvest great quantities, even with small rainfall. So one can imagine that for every 2.5 centimeters of rain, if the surface area capable of harvesting rainwater represents 100 meters squared, 2,500 liters of water could be collected. So to put it into perspective, for the École Centrale de Nantes, so our school, that has about 25,000 meters squared of rooftop area with mainly flat roofs that can be harvested about 70%. So it is potentially capable of harvesting, after a small 2.5 centimeter rainfall, 800,000 liters of water, which is an incredible amount that can be used for months after. So rainwater is also very easy to collect for universities and companies in general that have a lot of flat roofs. It is easily filtered. It doesn't even need to be filtered for outdoor purposes because it has a small nitrate content that is actually very good for the environment, for plants especially, but it can be filtered easily to use indoors if needed, for example, to flush toilets, which is the most simple example. It is good for the environment. Like I said before, it's good for the plants because of the nitrogen, and it can also help reduce flooding in areas like Nantes, for instance, that is subjected to floodings. And it's also very cheap to implement.
We could take food production as a way to reduce consumption. For example, we could use shared container farms, which prevents from bug infestations and undesired weather, and allow control over light, water, and air flows. We could also use shared kitchen gardens, which allows to produce insecticide-free local fruits and vegetables for a minor cost, as well as shared green spaces. Other ideas would be, for example, to create a beer producing association that could be partnered with the different students association of the campus. All these ideas would allow great quantities in a small space, as well as a better quality and cheaper food for students. And it could possibly be paired as an experimental area for environmental projects.
So I also want to talk to you about another aspect of the eco-campus, because we think that even if an eco-campus is the global change, it needs also individual awareness. So we think that education is a keyword for eco-campus and transition. So the university can also help the students and educate them, for example, by warn them of their print, meaning the CO2 emissions, for example, using intelligent tools, or also create events or environmental association which can help the students on subject like how to cook or how to recycle, and help them to be more efficient on that subject. Also, due to due to the time, being visible on social media and giving advice by this way could be a good idea. And that's all for me.
So now we will talk about partners. So the idea is to use partners that have ethical that promote sustainability. For example, the school should be using a bank that invests in ethical projects and have ethical partners. The students' desk, like BDE, should organize some competition to gain some discounts in those ethical company, and the building company of the school should respect the 3 pillars of sustainable development. Concerning the university restaurant or the cafeteria, the providing society must be ethical also.
So that's it for part 1. Part 2 is about consuming ethically.
So I wanted to present you a simple case for sustainability. My case chose was using recycled paper. So the school might find an eco-responsible source for paper to introduce into school. We know that lots of students are printing courses and papers for their courses. Maybe the school can find an eco-responsible source for the paper and buy from them and then sell the paper to the students, for instance, at the entry of the school. And also the second move would be to install trays and special bins for paper to recycle them. And it would help to promote that eco-sustainability move. A second move would be to use the local producers for buying fruits and vegetables. We've seen with the lockdown that more and more people went to their local producers to buy their products, and they've chose them because they had no other option. Our goal is for us to continue this move, and also use this driving system that they've been using during lockdown, so that it's easier for users and to help us and help them understand the eco-sustainability move. Third aspect would be creating ecodorms in a campus. So the concept of ecodorms would be to create new buildings with zero emissions, installing solar panels, which are PV panels and thermal solar panels, and also install battery. Those panels would help to power, for instance, the light inside the building, thermal panels to create hot water for the apartments, and also install batteries that come from second life, give a second life to the batteries, like from the automotive industry, so that we can stock the energy from the solar panels. Also, we can improve the insulation of the building so that there is less waste of heating energy. And last move would be to use smart meters for electricity and smart management of the building.
Now we're going to talk about part 3, which is recycling our waste.
So for the recycling, we should install proper bins for every waste we have on the campus. Like for paper, the previous case, we should install bins for paper, for plastic and metal. Also install bins for batteries and lights, maybe. The other move would be to send the old computers to recycling or refurbishment centers so that they can be reused. And last move would be to use maybe the coffee grounds from the cafeteria to feed the plants.
Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the water cycle, because the water that we use should be recycled as much as rainwater that I talked about before. So one must know that there are three different types of water. The tap water is drinkable, the gray water that comes out of the shower, the sink, the washing machines, and the black water that is the most contaminated one. So the black water can be recycled to use outdoors, and the gray water can be recycled to use outdoor and for some indoor purposes as well. So the main advantages of recycling black water is that it puts less stress on the septic system. So it's good for the septic system, as I said, that are very old most of the time. And if you have a local filtering and recycling of black water, it's gonna help the processing plants and the old systems. It's good for energy conservation because, again, if you have a local filtering and recycling plant, it's easier on the processing plants because removing the harmful bacteria from black water costs a lot of money and uses energy. It's good for water conservation, obviously, because if you recycle water, you use less tap water, for instance, for outdoor areas. It's good for habitat protection because you have less chances of seepage of wastewater into natural habitats. It's good for plant growth because the black water recycled has a slight fertilizing effect, so it's good for plants. But the disadvantages that come with recycling black water is the cost. It's pretty costly. It's a pretty big operation. The smell, sometimes some people complain about the smell, even though it's supposed to be inodorant. But some people have complained about the smell, and the maintenance is pretty costly because you need to do maintenance every 3 months, which comes with a cost, obviously. Gray water can also be recycled. It's also good for the same reason as black water: energy conservation, water conservation, habitat protection. In this case, though, the cost is an advantage because it's pretty cheap to install. And there are no disadvantages of recycling gray water if the implementation is good and you don't have any maintenance issues. It's only beneficial because you can reuse the water for a lot of purposes and recycle a lot of water and save a lot of water at a low cost. So there is really no excuses for big corporation campuses not to recycle at least gray water. Part 4 is about cost analysis. So Stephanie is going to present about cost analysis now.
Hi, today we're going to talk about the cost analysis of our project. The reason why we decided to do a cost analysis is because we wanted to assess how viable our project was or is, sorry. And we also wanted to assess the present value of some future benefit of our eco-campus campus project, and to see if the benefit outweighed the cost of the project and our new eco-campus, and which was actually included in the new equipment and the equipment installation. The benefit, was what was the outcome of implementing on eco-campus instead of having a normal campus. We had the environmental benefit, non-monetary and less weight, and it was going to be a long-term use campus. This is the cost analysis and the comparison. Here you can see we have in the light blue we have the normal campus and the cost of normal campus, and in the dark blue we have the cost of an eco campus. We have a different point of different new things that we added in our eco campus. Like for example, the lighting installation and fixture, the plumbing fixture, the rainwater harvesting system, as Corentin was just talking about, the insulation, the smart electric installation, and the flooring. As you can see in the rainwater harvesting system, insulation, smart electric installation, because we don't have that in a normal campus, that's why we can't see any cost comparison there. We made like quite a simulation of how much was going to cost us to implement a new campus. We had like before we normally have in a normal campus, we estimated the price to be 1,652,210 euros, and implementing an eco campus was going to cost us 2,061,540 euros. So the difference between the two of them is about 402,103 euros. What we can return from everything we've done so far, like the analysis of our cost analysis, we can actually understand that going for an eco campus will increase the total cost of construction by 402,103 euros, in addition to the total construction of a normal campus. So meaning that implementing an eco campus was going to cost us more. The percentage increase in total construction is between 13% and 15%. We will definitely be saving in water around like 400 liters per day, as with doing all the method that Corentin was explaining. And if we consider that on everything we'll be saving by doing an eco campus, we can see that a payback period is going to be around 11 years, which is actually less than a building life cycle of 25 years, because normally a building actually stays for like 25 years, without having too much renovation in it. This makes the eco-campus building, this actually warrants an eco-campus building from a financial standpoint, which means we can understand that despite the fact that having an eco-campus, like implementing an eco-campus, is expensive, we actually gain the benefit from it later. Like it's the same thing as food, like to eat healthy is expensive, but then you get to gain the benefit of it in your lifetime. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. So that's it for the presentation. So thank you for listening, and don't hesitate if you have any question.
Right, thank you very much for your presentation. I see that we have a lot, the two teams have so much in common. They have so many points in common, like education and awareness, water, using local food, recycling. So yeah, I think that you have noticed this, Mr. Spencer. They have a lot in common.
Yeah, well, very much so. Yeah. And I suppose, as I said at the start, with engineers, this is very much the atmosphere, the ambiance in which they now study and work. Yeah, very much a focus on the environment and renewable energies, etc. From what I gather, the students at Rennes coming at it from an environmental perspective or through studying the environment, that they are also exposed to similar ideas. So there's a lot of commonality. There. Voilà. I was certainly, in terms of the Centrale presentation, the aspects of artificial intelligence, of how artificial intelligence could be used so that energy is used, for example, in a smart way. That it's only being used when needed, because of a monitoring of when people are present in the building, or as Valentin explained, when perhaps the weather is different, etc. So I do find that aspect fascinating, the use of artificial intelligence to really only use resources when they are really needed, and at the right amount, and at the right time when they are needed. That's a big advance, isn't it? That's a big advancement.
I do believe that it's a quite an interesting debate to have on artificial intelligence. I will just check if the team has any question to raise, and then we're gonna maybe have a little chat or debate about artificial intelligence, because I am actually conducting research about artificial intelligence. So I might have some questions on this particular subject. Just let the teams. Yes.
Actually, if I can just ask my own team a question to start, in the cost analysis at the end, the cost was given as just over 2 million euros on a normal campus. 2 million euros on an eco campus and 1.6 million euros on a normal campus. So in effect, the cost of implementing an eco campus was just over 400,000 euros. But then Stephanie went on to explain that actually with the improvements that you make, that actually pays for itself. After 11 years, that additional cost is paid for. But my question to Centrale students is, do you think that's true on any eco campus, that anywhere where you implemented these changes, that after 10 years, 11 years, that it would pay for itself, or is that very specific to Centrale?
Go for it, Stephanie.
That's fine. This wasn't really, no, it doesn't really, it actually depends on what is implemented, like what has to be done. So the calculation are actually made on the new things that has to be added to the eco campus in order to make the campus ecological. So I won't particularly say that in every campus that will have a payback of 10 years or 11 years. It could be less, or it could actually be more than 10 years.
Right.
Depending on what has to be done.
Yeah, it's like what we said in the previous presentation, like every campuses are going to be different, and they can maybe not all implement rainwater storage and things like that. But I believe the cost analysis Stephanie did was for a campus such as Centrale.
Yeah.
So that has some surface area like to implement these kind of changes.
Yeah. Well, certainly, as you said, the buildings at Centrale having the buildings having flat roofs, that would facilitate the rainwater harvesting, wouldn't it? Yeah. I don't know at Rennes. Do you mainly have flat roofs at Rennes, the University of Rennes? You probably don't spend much time looking at the roofs of the buildings, but are they mainly flat roofs in Rennes? Do you know?
If my memory serves right, there are a few buildings that kind of look flat on top.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's all of them, but a few, which might be pretty good
for rainwater harvesting. Yeah.
They don't do that. They certainly don't do that, but flat roof is
actually on our campus we've actually got lots of buildings like the ones with the labs and classrooms. Most of them have flat roofs, so we could do that.
That would be possible. Yeah. Okay, great. Well, I've said my piece. Yeah. So I don't know if the SELVA team have questions now.
First, I'd like to really say that it was a good presentation. We really liked how practical it was and how straightforward with all of the necessary details. So really, congratulations, guys. It was very nice. And my question was the question came to me when you were talking about transportation, etc. Aren't some of these projects made to also necessarily have help from the city or from the government, etc.? Or are these projects too big to be dealt with just the university? Or do you think the university can take charge of many of those projects by itself? I hope my question was clear.
Yeah. Good question. Good question.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see if I think Flavian took this piece, like was doing this part. Maybe he has an answer he wants to give.
Yes, sorry, can you repeat your question, please?
Yeah, it was just to see are the transportation costs, for buses, etc., meant to be handled just by the university, or is there going to be help from the city or the government, etc., to put that in place?
For those inside the campus, things should be handled by the university, but for those outside, like tram station and bus stations, they should be already here. So it's like for the city to handle it, or the state.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
In our presentation, we really favored bike lanes and things with no engine, actually, because we know it's more difficult to implement, like you said, bus transportation that are eco-friendly and things like that. So like the banning cars is actually like what Flavian put in the presentation, like banning cars is actually or at least include only electric cars or eco-friendly cars is a big part of the idea for our eco-campus.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly true that a lot of students come to Centrale on bicycles or using the tram, don't they? We're rather fortunate that the tram stops right outside Centrale. Yeah. So I think that it is already partly implemented, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think electric car will be ready. It's not quite a short-term project. It's a long-term.
Yeah, we don't even know if electric cars are the solution, to be honest. So it's better to bet on easier things like walking transports and biking, things like that. Nantes is great for that because you have a lot of biking lanes and you have a good space for bikes, actually.
Would you say it's also a big campus where you can walk, where you have to walk a lot, etc., or are the buildings pretty close to each other?
For the University of Nantes, it's a little big. For Centrale, just talking about Centrale, it's very small. Like you can walk very easily. Everybody walks. There is no cars or anything going from one building to another. No bikes either. Everybody walks. But for the University of Nantes, which is a little bit bigger, you have some roads and some cars, but mostly people walk. It's not that big. It's not big enough to take the car from one place to another.
Well, I'm really happy to be part of this Eco Campus Challenge because your presentation, guys, was really extensive and interesting. And I was wondering when you were saying that we know how to make all these servers harmless for our ecosystem, if it was counting the embodied emissions, energy, sorry.
Oh, can you please repeat? My connection is quite laggy.
When you're saying that we know how to make all these servers harmless for our ecosystem, is it counting the embodied energy?
So when you're saying embodied energy, are you talking about the heat emissions, like of the servers?
No. In French, it's like l'énergie grise.
Oh, okay. So what I was trying to say by being harmless is like, because you have been talking like, yeah, we can use the heaters, the servers has heaters in rooms. And so what I was saying was like, yeah, so in the winter, it's just like are really useful. But what happens in the summer then? So you don't need to heat the room anymore. So our system is enabling like no, because in the summer you're going to cool down all your servers. Okay, so these are costs. When I was saying no costs and no ecological impact, was just like we're not going to use systems to cool down our servers. So this is going to be impactless in the if we're just looking at the heat energy and all the electricity used in order to cool down our servers. So when you're, the gray energy, I know how to say it. So these are, I mean, so if we are talking about like quantity of energy consumed during a lifetime of a material product, like for example, the dielectric fluid, you have to maintain it for, it can last at least 10 years, okay? So if you have enormous servers, you might change it a little bit more frequently, but if we have servers for like universities or like, for example, École Centrale, you can use it for 10 years straight. And yeah, so I do not see, I don't know if I answered your question properly, but this can last long. Okay, the servers won't be harmed by the dielectric fluid, and the dielectric fluid can last more than 10 years, approximately 10 years, we're going to say, and this is not like really expensive. So if this is your question.
I think that was not exactly, but that was quite interesting. And it's another way to see how to use the heat from the electronic devices.
Okay, so if you want to rephrase your question, we'll try to answer you in a better way.
Embodied energy is more related to the energy that you need to produce the materials or the devices.
Okay, so yeah, because the embodied energy, so we only have like, you don't need like, you're talking about like the hidden and indirect energy, just like not the energy we are going to use during the use of the servers, but like the indirect and all the propagation of energies that can be produced
more during the production of the devices.
Oh, the production of devices. Okay.
All the energy used then. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, the servers are going to be the same for so the embodied energy, just like producing the servers, are going to be the same for every other servers that are in every university. So there is no like supplementary embodied energy needed for the construction of such a server, for such servers. They are the same as they are in Centrale or at Rennes 1.
Okay.
Is
Thank
that
you.
okay?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose there is an implied energy cost, isn't there, as you say, Antoine, in terms of producing the servers. But yeah, I at the same time, it's not foreseeable or imaginable that these institutions can exist without these servers. So I suppose in that sense, if I understand you correctly, you're saying, well, there is a carbon footprint, there is an energy cost by actually producing these materials and servers. But yeah, I suppose at the present time that there is no solution to. Well, I suppose there may be solutions in terms of making those servers in a way that requires less energy, and perhaps that part of that would be reducing the size of the servers, maybe. That if you like, that is an installation that needs to exist, and that therefore there is at least a net benefit in terms of using that heat and energy that comes from the operation of those servers. Yeah, no, that's a good point, isn't it? About some of the things we use, which I suppose goes for solar panels and wind turbines, etc. Yeah, that there's a considerable, as you said, embodied energy. Yeah, considerable amounts of energy and greenhouse gases being produced to produce these these forms of renewable energy. Yeah. So that I suppose is a conundrum, isn't it? Yeah. Something that is not perhaps achievable in the short term, is it? In terms of not having a carbon footprint from producing these new forms of energy or energy saving. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bit more what I was asking, because I thought you found a solution to balance the impact of the construction of the servers. Like, for example, solar panels and wind turbines now have a very good recyclable rate, like it's around 95%. So I thought that was something about the same.
Is that so? Right. Yeah. Well, that is fascinating. Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah. I don't know if you know anything about that, Valentin, in terms of servers and whether the carbon footprint is being reduced or can be reduced in terms of computers and servers.
So we can reduce, like, of course, the impact, but it would require the development solutions for variable cooling on a large scale. So if we want to reduce like the green energy of such, like for servers, or for example, I don't know how to do it because this is not like I didn't look for it, but I was just saying that we can reduce all the impact that we are making by cooling these servers. So now to reduce the impact of the creation and the maintenance of such servers, I don't know how to do. I was just saying how to cool them without impacting and without emitting carbons more than like in a campus. We don't need to cool them down. We just need to put them in direct fluid, and then we won't harm the environment, and we won't have any CO2 emissions. But yeah, what about the green energy? We have no efficient solution now. We can do for small scale. For large scale, we don't have a solution yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
I might have a last question about container farms. Don't you think that putting farms inside containers are kind of breaking biochemical circles?
That sounds like a good question. Yeah. It must be a good question because no one wants to answer it. Yeah.
But I mean, to be fair, I don't know really the answer to this question, but we just put it there as a solution for as many campuses as possible, because like we said, we don't all have campuses with great green spaces and things like that. I'm from Paris originally, and I know all campuses don't have any green space, most campuses. So this was more of a solution that is out there, works and already exists, and is possible for some campuses. Obviously, if you have some green spaces, kitchen gardens and things like that are way more interesting. But it's just a great way of farming in a very small area, and even conduct some experiments with students, things like that. So I think for campuses, it's a good solution, but obviously like traditional gardening, if I can say, is more interesting if the campus has some space for it.
Okay, yeah, so you don't have much green spaces, but you will have the space to put containers in your campus?
Yeah, I mean, in the containers, the container farming has been created to do large quantities of farming in a very small area. You can do way more quantities in these containers, these kind of containers that you will do in the same area, in the same square foot area on the ground, you know.
Is that so? Right. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't know that, Corentin. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean that's why they created it at the beginning. Otherwise, there will be no, I mean, there will be no purpose for this kind of things.
Okay, so it's underground.
No, it's not underground.
Oh, okay, I thought.
No, they put, but like if you look, I mean, I don't know if you have the picture, you saw the picture in the presentation, but it's kind of like a vertical gardening, you know, like you have floors of gardening. So instead of just having I don't know, you're growing tomatoes in 2 meter squared area, like you could do that on 3, 4, 5 different floors, you know. So you get vertical. So obviously you can increase your production.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Nice.
Yes.
I think it's an interesting premise to have because not all campuses can deal with environmental protection in the same ways. So at some point we would have to consider these options as well, even though keeping the natural biochemical cycle will be preferable. If it's not available, I think it's a pretty good solution to have. So yeah.
Yeah, it also allows like the plants are more protected. Like it allows to grow things that we are not supposed to grow. I don't know if it's clear what I'm saying, but you can use it's using artificial light. So obviously you can grow species that are not supposed to grow in certain areas. So it could be good also for experimenting and some environmental school, things like that. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions from the teams? It's really fascinating and really good to having these kind of discussions and debates about some serious matters like these. I'm really proud of everyone in this virtual competition. Yes. You have just talked about AI, if I may. You know, like AI now is raising so many questions about its impact either on automation, on jobs, or even on the environment. So how are you willing to, implement impact into the field without actually harming the environment? What is your strategy for that?
So as we have been talking about with Antoine, so we are going to use data. Also, AI is powered by servers. Okay, so AI is an umbrella term. So we're not going to use proper AI. So what I'm going to say, just like we are not using something that would do humans' job. We are using a monitoring AI. In AI, if you have some notions in AI, these are computer vision, time series analysis, transfer learning, and uncertainty qualification. So this is not something that a human is doing on a campus. Okay. So these calculations, because AI are just statistics, are going to be performed by many servers. Okay, so like by example, one big server can power an AI for a campus like Centrale, and this this server is going to be plunged in a dielectric fluid, a tank in which there is a dielectric fluid, which will enable then the server to be cooled down without using any I don't know, fan or anything. Okay, so there won't be any harm done to the environment. Just saying that they are going to be plunged, and then they're not going to like produce heat or any carbon emissions. Yeah.
All right, if it's not really that harmless, so I think it's quite a really good idea to use AI as long as it remains safe. So I was just going to, I wanted to make sure of this point. Now, if you all allow me, I have one question for both teams. Is that okay, Mr. Spencer?
It's okay with me. Yeah. Go ahead with your big question. Let's have the big question.
Not a question, not a big one, but I just want you to tell us, and all those who are going to watch this video, why should we vote for your team specifically? Why should we choose you and not the other team? What is so special about you and your project and your idea? This is my last questions for both teams.
Will Selva go first? Yeah.
Selva.
Always.
Now let's switch the parts now.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's switch the let's start by Nantes and then we end up with Selva.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that okay for you?
Yeah. Does a member of the Centrale team want to make a statement as to why people should vote for their presentation rather than the SELVA presentation?
Yeah, you say it wasn't a big question, but it is kind of a big question, actually.
It's a simple one. Come on, guys.
I mean, if I can talk for all of the team, I think as engineering students, like, we are willing to make it a very technical, even more technical, like dig into the technicity, make it realistic, and really like go more into the technological aspect. We didn't have enough time, I feel like, so far to really dig into the new technologies and things like that. So that's really like go more into AI, deep learning, see how that will work, and have like some very technical presentation. I feel like we could have something very technical, very realistic, very down to earth, and with a good cost analysis that we can improve even more, and come out with a very, very finite project, if I can say.
Thank you.
All right. If
very good, Corentin. Yeah.
So you can have another answer from your peer or your co-workers if they want to say something.
Anybody else from Centrale? Does anybody want to add anything to Corentin's statement?
No.
I think he said it all. I mean,
I think he said it all. Yeah, absolutely, Valentin. Yeah.
What I would like to point out that we are really thankful for being able to participate to this virtual eco-campus challenge, and I wasn't expecting such good and great opponents today. So I won't say one is better than another one. We have different points of views, and so I think ours is more on innovation, things that has not been done, and just like looking more into the future, and without and keeping like the realistic in place, of course. And the SELVA one was maybe was not that much into the future, into like close future, not really in technical like we can be. But I mean, I can't say one is better than another one. And yeah, I mean, I would vote for us because we can offer chocolate too. But
don't worry me, I will vote for SELVA.
Well, it remains a competition, you see. If I had to choose, I would choose you both, but it's a challenge. These are the rules. All right. Yes. Now let's
Selva.
hear it from the SELVA team.
Hi. Well, on behalf of SELVA, to answer this question, which is, as Corentin said, a very big question, I just want to say that it's pretty hard because, first of all, we both teams, I feel, have the same vision, you know, with the same aspects we want to work on and the same subjects to improve and further environmental protection, etc. But you know, I feel like one project can't go with another. With all the great ideas are also great ways into putting them in place, and technical, you know, technical knowledge from both camps would totally make this Eco Campus Challenge a real thing and implement it not only on campus levels, but also on city levels and country level. You know, if everything works together, it will work out. And yeah, by saying that, I would say that it's pretty, we took a very comprehensive approach and also took into consideration people's participation. I'm sure people need to participate in, you know, the engineering aspect of it as well. But perhaps we took a very broad version of the campus challenge. So you know, it's my team, so I'm biased, but obviously both teams are great. And I vote for both teams.
Thank you. Antoine?
All right, yeah. I think first I'm gonna make a honest answer. I'm not sure eco challenge is the best way to try to work on this kind of project, because I think that we need to be all together to go through these changes, these systemic changes. And I really think that Valentin and Kathleen and Mikres said that was very true, that both of the project have pros and cons, and I think they're both really good. And I think that we should work together. I think that is the best option. Well, now I'm gonna make another answer, and I think our project is realizable, like the innovation are already tested and approved. Most of the solutions are nature-based and easy to implement. It is financially viable, and yeah, and we have something that my teammates are probably too shy to talk about, is our project will bring life to the campus. The context is not really pleasant. Winter is coming, climate is changing, COVID-19 is still spraying, but this project has something: love. Our team is bringing back love through this project. That's why we should vote for this project.
All right. All right, thank you both.
Antoine, and do you remember what you just said last time during our last meeting? In the end,
all you need is love.
Exactly.
Yes, so both teams answered to my questions. I hope this helps the people or the audience to vote for the team. Yes, I think that they were both emotional and they want to work together, but this is a challenge. These are the rules. What can you do? But I'm really happy to take part of this and to be able to exchange with amazing people here today. I'm really happy and proud of everyone. So thank you very much for everybody here, and a special thanks for you, Mr. Spencer, and another special thanks for Miss Madam Maëlys, and of course a special thanks for Madame Christine Evin for letting us be part of such an amazing experience.
Yeah, if I can just say, just before we go, it's certainly for me as a teacher, what it does make me realize is that we should be doing more projects like this, where students from different backgrounds, different disciplines are are coming together, and particularly people studying the environment and studying engineering. Yeah, it does show that I think they're complementary and could work very, very well together. And it does really make me realise that there should be more interaction between campuses, between university campuses, and more cross-pollination, between different university departments and different universities. I think you learn a great deal from each other. So let's hope that we can do more things like this. That bring students together from different places.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Yes. So, does anyone else want to
add in the end?
Add something?
Because it's time.
You have an appointment? Yes.
Can I actually just say to my students that if we had finished earlier, I had asked them to log on to another Zoom meeting just with me, but the class that I normally have with them, which would be ending, pardon me, would be ending quite soon. So just to say to my Centrale students, there's no need to log on to the other Zoom meeting. I don't think there's any point, as we've only got 10 minutes left. So just a thank you to my students for participating at short notice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I was wondering if anybody can put on
their
cameras on, so that we can say hi and goodbyes for everybody.
Hi and goodbye.
Yeah. Is it possible for everybody to turn on their cameras? So we have Mikrazan, Corentin. That's Corentin. That's you. Hi. Yes, Antoine. And then we have Caitlin, Valentin.
Actually, Corentin and Antoine could almost be twins, couldn't they?
Exactly.
I can see the two of them side by side on my screen. I don't know if that's the same for everybody, but so you look quite similar. On the screen. It's
we have Jean-Maxime, Antoine, Lalande, Arthur, Anaïs, Stéphanie,
Camille.
What about the others?
The other they don't want.
It
was nice meeting you all.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Nohel.
Nice meeting you too.
This is
right.
Wonderful. This is wonderful.
Okay.
All right.
So
well done, everybody. Let's have an applause.
Great job.
Great job, everyone.
Thank you so much again, and have a nice day. Bye bye, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
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 Thank you. Bye.